In 1947, Florida shut down a popular drag club. Now Governor DeSantis is trying to do it again. In 1933, Charles Babe Baker opened the Ha Ha Club in New York City. Later that year, he opened a second location here in Hallandale, Florida. On February 2, 1947, Baker tried to stop a fight between two patrons at the club and called the police. Baker and both patrons were arrested. Frank Tuppen, a juvenile probation officer who was running for Broward County Sheriff, filed a complaint against the club just 3 days later. He claimed multiple men he had arrested for having same-sex sexual relations said they frequented the Ha Ha Club. Baker fought the complaint, but the Broward County Circuit Court ultimately declared the Ha Ha Club a public nuisance and ordered it to close in the spring of 1947. Last month, the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation alleged in its complaint against our house, just 13 miles from the original Ha Ha Club, that a, quote, nearly nude dancer was filmed parading a young girl through the audience, end quote. On or about July 3rd, and then that video ignited public outrage. The complaint threatened to revoke our house's liquor license and cited the Ha Ha Club case, noting that the Florida Supreme Court recognized that men impersonating women in the context of suggestive or indecent performances can constitute a public nuisance. Queer News Tonight anchor Max Fenning, the president and founder of PRISM, a nonprofit that works to expand access to LGBTQ+ inclusive education in South Florida, said the complaint against our house, like the one filed against the Ha Ha Club 75 years ago, shows how laws related to public morals can be used to disproportionately censor LGBTQ+ people and topics. He said in an interview, quote, "The Florida Supreme Court case noted that men impersonating women is not in and of itself a verifiable offense, but it's doing it in an indecent fashion. You see very often the use of vague and subjective language to be able to create laws and rulings that seem common sense, but have just enough vagueness to be applied in ways that unnecessarily silence the queer community." It's interesting to me that the Our House is going to face the exact same fight. It's not certain what's going to happen in Our House, but the governor cites the Supreme Court decision 70-some years ago to justify his actions on drag. And this vagueness that Max Fenning from prison talks about is completely clear in its vagueness, and it's called the Don't Say Gay law, because it applied for kindergarten to third grade, which didn't exist, but in its vagueness, now we're watching how it's being applied all over the structure of our education system, our libraries, and now our entertainment venues like Our House.
And the parallels extend. So in that case, Frank Fagan, who was running for Broward County Sheriff, had political motivations. And in this case, in the Our House case, we also see Governor DeSantis vying for political office and using this in order to advance his agenda. So the parallels are pretty striking in both cases.
It just feels like extremism. It's like we're doing these extreme things to get attention, to, politically advance ourselves. It just feels like a joke.
Victor, I want to ask you specifically, Pride Lines, our leading organization, Our House is in Miami-Dade County. Pride Lines is our leading youth advocacy organization in Miami-Dade County. The reaction that you see to that filming and the Our House drag show, and drag shows in general, from your seat, what are we watching here, and what kind of thoughts do you have about it?
Well, what kind of thoughts I have are one thing. What we're watching. I think, it's been said, this is a political ploy to win an election. It's body shaming at worst. It is unfortunate that the few spaces that we have in Miami-Dade County for our community, for our drag performers, are being taken away every day or disappearing every day on their own. And the fact that now government is trying to take it away from us and shame us for wanting to have community and create spaces where we're accepted is unacceptable, because that is where our community, including our young people, go to find others that are part of the same community.
And attacking drag queens is deliberate, because basically they want to conflate the two things, the transgender community and the drag community. Being in drag doesn't mean that you're transgender, but they are trying to make the two things equal. In other words, they want the general public and the voters at large to think drag queens equals transgender, and they use this term transgenderism because now supposedly it's an ideology or something, which doesn't make sense at all. It's an identity. But
you know, I'm quite a student of the 1930s, and one of the things that I learned about my fascination of the 1930s and the rise of fascism in Germany in the 1930s is all of the smartest people that I paid attention to, teachers, professors, etc., said, learn your history so you don't repeat the worst parts of your history. And this story brings absolutely front and center to the LGBTQ community, especially here in South Florida, but it's happening in lots and lots of places around the country. But here in South Florida, we've experienced the exact same thing. You point out the notice of, wow, the grounds of an election or the politics behind it is so similar, but we're talking 1947. Not 2022. We're not learning from our history. My last question on this story, again, comes back to you, Victor. From your advocacy for young LGBT, especially in South Florida generally, but Miami-Dade County, do you think that these kinds of attacks from the governor and the extreme radicals in Florida are going to work? Ultimately, do you think that this is going to be successful?
I certainly hope not. I do believe that we are going to have a difficult fight ahead of us. We have a long road ahead of us. I believe they will gain momentum. But ultimately, I think that we have enough people advocating and standing by us and that recognize that this is unacceptable, that we will come out of this. We will win in the end. But we have to get ready for the fight.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.